What's up, everyone? Welcome to Fantasy Football Today, DFS. My name is Sia Nejad. We've got a Week 3 main slate to cover. And as always on a Thursday, we do it with Meg Shoup and Mike McClure. Mike and Meg, before I introduce you, I got to give a shout out to the contest winners. We've got Sab 4687 USF musician and T-Bone 1769. That was 1, 2, 3 in our contest. Meg, how you doing? And how did you feel about last week? How did you feel about coming into Week 3 of the main slate?
You know, last week was like the tale of two sides. I got a lot right, like my Drake May call, but then I got plenty wrong, like my Derrick Henry call. So that shocked me, the Derrick Henry, 2 fantasy points. That was rough. But, on to this week. And I like this slate. So I'm looking forward to talking to it with you guys.
Mike, it is an interesting slate, right? Because we've got a lot of interesting totals in that 1 o'clock where it's in that 45-ish range, not a lot of high-scoring ones. Then we get to the 4 o'clock slate, which there's 4 games there, 13 games in total. And there's a couple high-scoring games there that I think a lot of people will be focused on. How are you feeling about this Week 3 main slate?
You know, I'm feeling pretty good about it. I'm feeling good anytime there's a DFS slate, to be honest with you. See, it's just a fun game that we always enjoy trying to solve. But I do think this slate has some interesting pieces, whether it's, just the form of elite value plays, like obvious value plays, right? And then those in-game environments. I just think that this maybe is one of the better weeks we've seen in terms of like truly stackable games, rather than, I feel like early this season there's been a lot of times where we've maybe been isolating a side and not necessarily trying to really jump on a particular environment. I think that changes a little bit here this week.
Yeah, I mean, there's all eyes on a couple of different games. We'll talk about different ways to play those games and different games to get stock in. Let me just point out here, and by the way, we've got Matt on the 1s and 2s talking Sunday main slate. He's got the 4 o'clock window. He's got the 1 o'clock window here. A lot of games to choose from, and we are going to start with the first one on the list here. Falcons -5.5 at Panthers. I do want to remind everybody as we look at a 43.5 point total that the contest is open. The contest is live. It's attached to the YouTube and podcast description over on Spotify and Apple. So get into that $5 contest and compete against us and a lot of your friends here at FFT DFS. Meg, I'm going to start with you. We get to the Falcons, a road favorite. This was 4.5 yesterday. I'm not sure where it opened, but it was 4.5 in some places yesterday. 5.5 now, 6 in some places. Falcons a pretty big division favorite on the road. I think there's good reason for them to be a favorite, and I think there's good reason to be paying attention to some players here, including Bijan Robinson. What's your take on this game?
Yeah, you said it. Bijan Robinson, for me, he's probably going to be chalky, but I don't care. He's had great performances against these Panthers. We know we want to target the Panthers run defense. And, we've seen him already this season. Bijan Robinson is definitely the play that I'm going to spend up for and make a priority on this slate. So for me, it's probably in this game, it probably is really just Bijan Robinson for me. I don't see myself going to a lot of other places, but definitely love Bijan this week.
Mike, it's interesting here. We see Matt's put up the notes here, which are always so great. He says 50-plus combined points in both meetings last season between these two teams. And last season, Bijan Robinson, 265 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns versus Carolina. So I think Bijan, I'm going to play him as well. What I do find interesting is, again, I'm taking the Falcons. It was one of my first plays on Sportsline. I'm laying the 4.5, the 5.5. But I do think there's a possibility that this Panthers offense gets going at home, and that maybe I and other people are overvaluing this Falcons offense. And to that end, are there people on the Carolina side you'd consider? I mean, I see a guy like Hunter Renfrow, and I'm like, well, doesn't have maybe a huge ceiling, but like he's going to probably get a lot of catches, maybe in a negative game script. Then there's, other guys like Chuba Hubbard. Is it just Bijan and get out here?
Yeah, it's going to be Bijan and get out here for the most part for me. I could certainly make the argument for Drake London. Look, Drake London, he has the skill set. He has the opportunity to maybe at some point get close to CeeDee Lamb and those guys. I'm not saying join that tier, but be solidly in that next tier. He's not priced like it at a flat 6K. So I think these games will shoot out. A note on this one, the 43.5, I do really like the over here. I just ran a new batch of sims for
it's too low. I agree.
I set the number at 47.5.
Wow.
So it's anytime you get more than 3 to 4 point edge, you start to wonder where am I wrong? What am I missing here? In an efficient market like the NFL, you shouldn't be off by that much. It's like right under the threshold where I think I'm wrong and doing something wrong. So like it's one that I like. I think it's a really strong over lean. So I would like the Falcons team total over 24.5. I think Carolina can push. Having said all that about Carolina, I don't think I'm going to get to a bring back in any situation here. You're never going to, if you want to isolate it and who's going to be number one, I think that's great. But I personally mostly want Bijan. I was extremely encouraged with Bijan in the passing game, particularly against Tampa Bay, because we know you don't really run on Tampa. And the fact that he was so engaged there, if games get tight and competitive, he's just going to absolutely smash in DFS here. So I like Bijan a lot.
Go ahead, Meg.
One
cheap play, I like my cheap tight end. So I'll just throw out Jatavian Sanders. That just came to me that he is on my list because, he's basically a punt tight end, essentially. And, like Xavier Legette has been struggling. So they just need more options outside of Tedero and McMillan. So, I would say JT Sanders is in my pool.
He got a ton of targets and catches last week as well.
Right.
And I'll say this, listen, I mentioned Hunter Renfrow and people are like, well, why didn't you mention Ted Rowe and McMillan? It's because Hunter Renfrow is so cheap. So that was another cheap option. But Ted McMillan at 5,900. Listen, if you wanted to have just one on each side here, I think Bijan Robinson at 7,900 and Ted McMillan at 5,900. I think it's a great play, especially when you consider what Mike just said, that this 43.5 point total just simply might be too low. And this could get into the range of some of these games we really love from a point standpoint, like that Cowboys game, which of course we're going to talk about later at Chicago. So I just think this is an interesting game, particularly on the 1:00 slate, where I'm not necessarily stacking the quarterback, but if I'm playing early slate only, I'm probably having Bijan and McMillan in a lot of lineups. And don't forget, I believe AJ Terrell is out for a few weeks. So that secondary took a hit last week against Minnesota. Still a good defense in my opinion, but I think Mike's right that Carolina will be able to push back at least a little bit here. Let's move on to another game. Colts and the Titans. I don't know if we're going to have a ton of stock in this game, but there were questions from Twitter. We put that tweet out, and the first question we got was, hey, are we running back Daniel Jones? And he's only 5,400. Mike, I'm going to start with you here because I think you were first in line on the Daniel Jones train in week 1. Are we playing him at 5,400?
I am not going to. I don't dislike it. This divisional matchup here, to me, again, don't fact check me on this one because I haven't looked it up at all, but just feels like every time these teams play, it's like 17-21, 20-23. Like it's just an average kind of game. I'm never going to fault anyone that wants to play Jonathan Taylor. Like he's a very good running back. The volume has generally been there. And he's not priced at the absolute top, but would be contrarian tournament looks for me only. I know that the price point is attractive on Daniel Jones. While it's awesome that I was able to get it right in week 1 on him in terms of running hot at the goal line with rushing touchdowns, don't let that pull you in a little too much, particularly on the road in division. I don't think that the norm for Daniel Jones is going to be, rushing touchdown every week and approaching 300 yards passing. While I would love to see it, and that's great, I think that he's ran extremely hot so far. And I think that there are a number of quarterbacks that you can play. So we'll talk about it later on, but it's enticing at 5,400, but Dak Prescott's not even 6K either. There's just the pricing is pretty soft at the quarterback position still.
Totally agree. Listen, I like what Daniel Jones is doing, Meg, but I mean, I'm not like, oh, he's so awesome now, and I'm playing him in all my fantasy lineups too. So I'm a no on Daniel Jones too. My question for you, Meg, is, are you playing Daniel Jones? But more importantly, there's other players here. Jonathan Taylor has just been a volume monster and efficient as well at 7,200. The problem with Jonathan Taylor is, well, you just said you wanted to play Bijan. I do too. We probably are going to want to play some Christian McCaffrey, speaking of a volume and efficiency monster. So, I mean, you can't really fit all these guys in unless we go that 4K route with a quarterback, which we'll have the option to do probably later in the show. Are you in on Jonathan Taylor or Tony Pollard or even a Tyler Warren at 4,400 is a pretty good price?
I do have some interest on the Colts side with Jonathan Taylor's definitely in my pool. Like you said, getting just monster usage, being used more in the passing game too, which is really nice to see, running a lot of routes. So definitely Jonathan Taylor in my pool. I know Tyler Warren has a toe, but from the Twitter doctors, it sounded like they weren't overly concerned about it. So if Tyler Warren, practices the rest of the week, I definitely have interest in Tyler Warren. What an amazing start for him. And I guess I never want to be on the opposite side of you guys because you guys are so sharp, but I will say that I have a little interest in Daniel Jones because remember coming from the Shane Steichen, or Shane Steichen was the how the tush push all started, right? Mm-hmm. And so he may want to keep running Daniel Jones at the goal line. So far, it's worked through 2 games. So I might buy into that a little bit more. And so Daniel Jones is in my quarterback pool.
Oh, it's totally fair. I mean, I'm not playing him, but it's not like I don't like him. Let me ask you this, Meg, if you do play him, would you be pairing him with because you could play him naked, or you could pair him with Tyler Warren and you're not spending a lot of money, or even a Josh Downs, who again was also on the injury report, as we see on the screen here, courtesy of Matt. Would you pair him with somebody?
I wouldn't force it because the reason I like him is price and the rushing upside, potentially these goal line rushes. But Tyler Warren would be the priority stack partner for me.
Okay. Any more notes on this game? I think we can probably move on. Tony Pollard, for the record, I had his rushing over last week. It was 66.5. It's now 68, 69.5. I'll tell you right now, I'm probably putting that over in as well because he's just getting all the volume. And I don't really respect this Indianapolis Colts rush defense in a big way. So I think Pollard will have a good game, but he's not getting any receptions really. So I don't know that would be a good DFS play. I think we can move on. Meg, we can move on to the Raiders +3 at the Commanders, 44.5 point total. We saw at the end of the game there when Washington was getting bludgeoned by maybe the best team in football. I don't know, at least maybe the best team in the NFC, the Green Bay Packers. There's a knee issue with Jaden Daniels. And I'd like your opinion here. Do you think he's playing? Because my guess is he's actually not playing. And we're going to get a Marcus Mariota at 4,000 to potentially look at. Your thoughts?
My guess is he's not playing either. Again, reading the Twitter doctors, there is some risk there. Obviously, coming back too soon from that kind of knee sprain. And we don't know the severity or all the details, obviously. But there is a risk of tearing your ACL if you come back too soon. And you and I have watched this movie before. I was at the Ravens game where RG3 got injured, sat out 1 game, came back, and then 2 games later, he tore his ACL in the playoffs. So listen, as a fan, I hope they err on the side of caution is the terminology that Dan Quinn is using. And I do hope they do that. It's not worth it to rush him back. So I'm not a doctor, so I don't know how long he should really rest to kind of bring down that risk of tearing the ACL. But I'm nervous about it as a fan. I hope they sit him this week, and I think they will because just of the wording they've used so far. So I do think we're going to get Marcus Mariota here, and I'm definitely interested in 2 appearances last year. Jaden Daniels did start every game last year. However, he missed almost all of the Carolina Panthers game in October, and in week 18, he came out at halftime. So Marcus Mariota almost got a game and a half. In those 2 games, he threw 2 touchdowns each game. I actually wrote the stats on the Dallas game. I think he was 15 for 18, 161, 2 touchdowns in 1 half. And both games, fun fact, he threw a touchdown to Zach Ertz. And the other game, the Dallas game, it was Terry McClure and got involved and got a touchdown as well. So that's my way of saying I kind of like a little cheap Marcus Mariota, Zach Ertz stack. And I am definitely going to be interested if that is what Washington decides to do.
Mike, you're sort of the 4K wizard here. I agree with Meg on at least considering Marcus Mariota. I want to get your thoughts there because, again, with the running backs we just talked about, some of the receivers that people are going to want to play, people are really they're going to want to do the Mac Jones thing that we did. Thanks to you. I did it last week too, and it really paid off. I paired him with Christian McCaffrey, but they're going to want to try to do that with some of their lineups. So A, do you like that? And B, I want to offer this to you. Geno Smith as a just pure game theory play on the road against a Washington defense that isn't very scary, coming off maybe the worst game of his career against an excellent defense in the Chargers. I'm just saying I don't hate a Geno Smith play in this game if you're, again, trying to be contrarian and maybe a full slate or early slate. Give me your thoughts, Mike.
I don't mind the Geno Smith. I think the game environment can be competitive. The issue that I would have would be if it were Geno Smith and Marcus Mariota, I'm just going to take the salary savings and play Mariota and hope that I'm benefiting by more opportunity for Mariota if Geno is playing well, right? Because they're scoring points, you got to keep up. I like two things in 4K, Sia. My TV when I'm watching NFL games and my quarterback if they have the ability to run at 4K. And that's what Marcus Mariota has here. I think that it's also a revenge game. Don't forget, spent some time with the Raiders. But offering my opinion, look, I would love to be a Twitter doctor. I think a lot of people like to be Twitter doctors and lawyers. Jaden Daniels shouldn't play in this game, and Jaden Daniels shouldn't play until week 7, in my opinion. And why week 7? Week 7 is their next divisional game on the road at Dallas in dome in a controlled environment on a good field. This Washington field is notorious over the years for being very brutal on leg injuries, right? So I wouldn't play him here. They have the beautiful situation of already having a game up in the division over the Giants. They get that week 7 game on the road at Dallas, and then they don't play another division game until the last 4 games of the year. They are backloaded all 4 of their final games there. They can be fine. I would not play Jaden Daniels because of the way he runs. I don't think they're going to play him here.
Right.
I would be very, very stunned if they played him here, but I think a more likely scenario is he sits out here and it kind of they look and see, especially if they win the game still. I think they save him. So I'm looking at Mariota. Haven't listed him on cheat sheet stuff until it's official yet because I don't want to be wrong as my Twitter doctor. And why am I listing a backup quarterback, things like that. But if Mariota's a starter, Mariota is definitely going to be in DFS lineups.
Would you be pairing Mariota? Because you don't have to, but the way this offense works, there's going to be a lot of short area passes, a lot of push passes to a guy like Deebo Samuel. Again, I'm not saying I want to pair him with a 6,100 Deebo Samuel. I'm just saying I could see it in Deebo in the short area, racking up, 100 or 80 total purpose, all-purpose yards with, a touchdown. Would it be Mariota by himself, though?
It would be Mariota by himself for me, but it only – look, I'm never going to be mad if you want to throw like Ertz in there at the tight end or any of the pass catchers really. But the majority of my builds, I can almost guarantee you what it's going to look like if that happens, which a lot of people are going to play this and you can get different. But like if you play Mariota, I should be able to play Mariota, Jordan Mason, Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey, and probably CeeDee Lamb in the same lineup, which is like unbelievable, right? But like I think that's likely where it's headed. If Mariota is the starter, you're going to see a ton of Mason, Bijan, CMCs, 3 running backs using the flex spot.
Meg, real quick before we move on, I just want to address the running backs. Ashton Genty hasn't been very efficient. People are not going to play him, especially at 6,700. I mean, it's just like, what has he done to justify taking him over somebody else near that price range? Jacory Krosky-Merritt in a good spot, unfortunately, because Austin Eckler has torn his Achilles, which, again, such a good guy, such a good player, but that's very, very unfortunate. You're not considering either of these running backs, are you?
I'm not. I will say I don't really respect the Washington run defense, or I'm not impressed with the Washington run defense. So if you want to make an uber contrarian play with Genty and think that this could be the week he shows a little more, I think that would be uber contrarian, but I don't think I'm going to do it. I'll just throw that out there that I do think it's contrarian and a good matchup. I
totally agree. Listen, Ashton Genty hasn't been efficient. That doesn't mean he can't spring a couple of long runs and take one to the house against Washington of all teams. So yeah, I think that's an interesting play for sure. Let's move on to the Packers -8.5 at the Browns. I don't know how interesting this one is from a DFS standpoint, Mike. I kind of looked at it and then looked away. I'm just not interested in this game environment at a 41.5 point total. Anything you like in this one, Mike?
Yeah. I could, depending on how everything shakes out, I could see myself playing the Browns defense, actually. Being a home team defense, lower scoring environment in general. They're 2,200. If we get Mariota and you want to play a really super cheap defense, like when I tell you you can play anyone you want, you can play essentially anyone, anything you could possibly want. Man, I have the most beautiful lineup on my screen right now. I wish I could share the entire thing, but it is truly unbelievable. And it reminds me to go back to the Mariota setup. if Mariota plays this game, I will also be playing some Jacoby Myers on the other side for the Raiders.
Interesting. Okay. A little extra insight in that Washington game. Meg, any thoughts in this game? I mean, first of all, the Browns defense is good. So I don't care how good the Packers are. Browns defense at 2,200 makes a lot of sense in terms of making other things work in your lineup. Anything else you like here?
Yeah, I think I do respect the Browns defense. And after getting burned by Derrick Henry against the Browns defense, I'm not going to go to Josh Jacobs. And so I don't have a ton of interest in this game other than the defenses. And I will say, I agree with Mike that you can punt on the Browns defense because they are a good defense, even though we respect the Packers offense. I rarely pay up for defense, rarely, but the Packers might be one here where whether it's contrarian to pay up or just worth it to pay up, the Packers may be one that I'd consider playing the Packers defense against the Browns offense. So I guess the two defenses are the ones that I'd consider at the polar opposite ends of the price spectrum.
I'll note that Tucker Kraft is 4,700 here. And
I do love Kraft with readout, but I just don't know that I'll get there just because of pricing.
You know what's funny is last week I'm gonna talk about a player real quick, and I'm not gonna reveal his name yet because last week I said, hey, look out for Jake Ferguson because I think he's gonna break out. And I said I don't think it's gonna be this week necessarily. Of course, he did kind of break out. What was it, 7 for 9? You know, 7 catches on 9 targets. So I'm gonna go ahead and say it about this player who I don't think is necessarily gonna break out this game, although I don't mind taking a flyer on him. Matthew Golden is 5,100. If you watched Green Bay last week, I mean, he had a couple of deep shots that Jordan Love kind of missed him. It wasn't his fault, but it's very clear that Jordan Love is keying in on Matthew Golden and we're keying in on him way down the field. I think he is a guy, not necessarily this week. Frankly, if he has a bad week this week, it's actually better because given the right matchup, I really like Matthew Golden. Not necessarily attached to Jordan Love, although you could do that too, but just keep an eye out on players like that who are fit to break out but may not break out this week. Their pricing is going to be down, their ownership is going to be down, and you can really capitalize in the coming weeks there. All right, we got to get to Bengals Vikings, which is extremely interesting for a variety of reasons. Can't wait to get Meg and Mike's take on that. Got Rams and Eagles coming up after that. We still got a ton of 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock games to get to, our cheat sheets, our top 3 at each position. We're going to cover it right after this message from our partners.
Well, you need your sports news anywhere?
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
All right, we're back on Fantasy Football Today, DFS. And this next game is really interesting. It's the Cincinnati Bengals. It's the Minnesota Vikings. This one in Minnesota. The Vikings are 3-point favorites, 41.5 point total, which isn't super sexy, but Meg, there's a lot to talk about here. Joe Burrow is out. We've got JJ McCarthy out, Carson Wentz and Jake Browning, and of course, Jordan Mason, the starting running back at 5,400, thanks to Aaron Jones being put on IR. Your thoughts, Meg?
Yeah, so this one for me, it's so weird because, like you said, the LSU matchup and, Chase and Jefferson. But with these backup quarterbacks, I don't have a ton of interest. I know it looks like, first of all, the Browning has been priced up already. So he's not the min price. But we do have Carson Wentz at min price. And I think a lot of people will go there. But I don't think I am because, again, if we're getting Mariota at the 4K, that's where I'm going to go with his rushing. The last time we saw Wentz, I believe, week 18 last year with the Chiefs, it did not look great. So I'm just a little skeptical there and skeptical how he can kind of elevate his receivers like Jefferson. So I don't know that I'm going to get to much in this game, even though I think a lot of people will, other than Jordan Mason, who, yes, he will be chalk, but he's going to have the whole backfield with Aaron Jones on IR. And I mean, they really have nothing behind him. So I'm definitely going to play a chalky Jordan Mason and kind of move on from this game.
Do we treat Mason as a free square, Mike? I mean, is that essentially what this is at 5,400?
Yes, to me, it's a free square. I mean, we saw it a little bit in his time with the 49ers with CMC down. There's a reason he was, kind of sought after by a lot of people, considering the situation at quarterback too. So when we played Mason, it was largely a situation where it's just like replacing Christian McCaffrey's value. Now you're replacing and becoming lead back and a quarterback is down, right? So if I were like truly pricing Mason based off projection where he's at, he should be, don't call me crazy, but he should be the same price as Bijan Robinson this week.
Wow. And he's certainly not at 5,400. Well, talk to me about Carson Wentz and Jake Browning. I mean, Jake Browning probably feels like he's off the table a little bit at 5,500. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but Carson Wentz is a flat 4K. I don't know if Jordan Mason, that quote free square, complicates things in terms of potentially playing a 4K Carson Wentz, but is that something you're considering?
So I could potentially play Wentz. I strongly prefer Mariota. I'm playing Mason either way, regardless what I do. Even if I play Wentz, like you're playing both, you're grabbing all the offensive points. The thing that I would say about Browning is I think that Browning is still extremely viable, even though he's priced up a bit. This game has so much variance. Like, could both of these offenses struggle and we're literally 3-3 or 6-3 at halftime? Yes. Mm-hmm. Could we be 17-17 at halftime? Yes. Like, there's going to be turnovers in this game. There's going to be extreme variance. I would welcome that. So part of why I love Mason so much there, like we know the game plan for the Vikings defensively. It's speed the game up for Browning. I mean, the plan for them defensively in any matchup is speed the game plan up for the quarterback. No one blitzes more than a Brian Flores defense. That is especially true here. Get the ball out early. We might have turnovers that lead to short fields, unless they return them for touchdowns. We're talking about real short fields for that offense. I think that both teams, and if that happens, like Browning's the situation where like if you're playing Browning in DFS, the best thing you could hope for is a pick six from him early. Mm-hmm. Put him in that trailing game script immediately where they have to start throwing the football, and he could pay it off. You saw it when he came in and replaced Burrow the other day. Multiple interceptions, multiple touchdowns, racking up yardage as if he had started the game. That's the Jake Browning experience, right? That's what you're going to get. Separate real-life football from DFS is critical in a matchup like this.
Absolutely. Any follow-up, Meg, before we move on to the next game?
No, other than, you talked about Brian Flores defense. That's why I probably won't get to Browning and Chase and the Cincy pieces, is because I have so much respect for that Brian Flores defense. But Mike's right. Like if you are playing Browning or Cincy pieces, the best thing would be early turnover or turnovers that kind of just keep him throwing. But I don't think I'm going to get there and then just play the Jordan Mason side.
All right, let's get to the next game. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, just real quick, just portfolio perspective. When I play multiple lineups, right, even if I'm playing 5, what that would look like for me is I would play Jordan Mason and the Vikings defense in one lineup, and then I'd be playing the Bengals over here because I think there's not in the same lineup necessarily, but in a Bengals stack on the other side, because there are scenarios where both of those lineups give you an opportunity to spike one way or another in your portfolio as a whole.
Love that. Love that perspective. Let's go to Rams plus 3.5 at the Eagles. 44.5 point total, which on this slate isn't terribly low, but it's right around where a lot of these other games are. I don't have, Mike, a lot of interest in this game, although what I do love about the Rams is that the target share is so concentrated on Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. I think my issue is I don't know from a pricing standpoint if I'm actually going to get to them or not. And if I do, it's Devontae Adams over Puka Nacua for me. I'm not particularly interested in Kyren Williams. And on the Eagles side, I just know I'm not paying up for Saquon Barkley, especially against what I think is a good, I almost said St. Louis Rams, Los Angeles Rams defense. And I'm not interested in the receivers. So for me, this is like Devontae Adams or nothing in this game. What about you?
Yeah, this one is super interesting, right? Because like there's a scenario that they could score a lot of points, but if you're LA and you're talking about, again, separate DFS to real life football, LA should know coming into this game they're not winning this game if they have to score 30 points. They want to make this as lower and as ugly as they possibly can. I think they take time of possession. I think they settle for field goals, put points on the board still. The one play that I'm getting to in this game in tournaments is going to be A.J. Brown. It's very similar to our call on Tyreek Hill last week. The offense in different ways has struggled. He has struggled to get the football thrown in his way. The price point is essentially at an all-time low, down to 6,300 here.
Yeah.
If you're Sean McVay and the Rams, you make someone other than Saquon Barkley or Jalen Hurts' legs beat you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think we get the deep shot to AJ at 6,300. I'll have that in a tournament, but not stacking this game up. And definitely not going to play Saquon over any of those other three running backs we've already talked about.
Meg, it's an excellent point, because one thing we preach when we're betting and when we're doing DFS is to not overreact to everything that we see in week 1 and week 2. And this is a situation where, again, if you're the DC for the Rams, you're not letting Jalen beat you with his legs or Saquon. At least you're trying not to let that happen. AJ Brown at 6,300. I mean, again, this is just like Tyreek Hill. It's a guy that could have 2 touchdowns and 80 plus yards. So any thoughts on that AJ Brown call? Anything else you like in this game?
I get it. There are just too many. There's other receivers that I just see me going to. It's definitely risky, but contrarian, most likely contrarian. So definitely the reward could be worth the risk, and I totally get that. So I don't think I'm going to do it, but I understand Mike's point and understand anybody who wants to. As far as the Rams side, I agree with you. It's so nice that it's so concentrated. But again, and we'll talk about the other receivers. There's just so many other receivers that I like that I don't know that I'll get there. If I did, it would likely be Adams at the cheaper price. I will say Barkley had just a ton of yards in 2 games against the Rams last year. So it is tempting. Like, does he just, but both times it was like these long, absolutely breakaway runs. And I don't know if that's sustainable, but it is Saquon Barkley. So it's tempting with Barkley for me, but I don't know if I'll get there. Oh yeah. Matt has the stats up on the 460 yards, 400 rush TDs against the Rams last season in the week 12 and the divisional round. So that is so tempting, but so I'll say that Saquon Barkley is in my pool. Don't know how much I'll get to him though.
Yeah, I'm going to be fully out on Saquon at 7,800. Mike, can I ask you an ownership question? Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, are they getting ownership? I would imagine they're getting some ownership, but I don't know if they're actually chalky or not.
Let's see. Devontae grabs a little, I'd say about 15%. Puka is probably going to go under-owned, maybe 10% or so. Puka's just close enough at 7,700 where he's close enough to, CeeDee Lamb at 8K. And frankly, Justin Jefferson. I mean, he's more expensive than Justin Jefferson, right? Within range of Jamar Chase. But I'll tell you where it really is mattering with Puka right now is I think the way things are trending, it's extremely likely you're playing a third running back in flex, and that squeezes wide receiver ownership pretty significantly at the top end.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's move along to Steelers -1.5 at New England. Well, Meg, you get to start here because you had a nice call on Drake May last week. And, it was one of those things where I think it was a lot of people were like, no, I don't want to go to Drake May, but you went right back to him. I had a friend of mine, Joe Sharon, who listens to this show. He's in some of my year-long fantasy leagues. He's in like this private league with a lot of money on the line. There's like 30 people in it, whatever the case may be. And he basically thanked you for like sticking with Drake May because he finished first this week in his fantasy contest. But anyway, everybody wants to know, are you going back to Drake May this week? It's a 44.5 point total. Steelers a slight road favorite here.
Well, first of all, thanks, Joe. Appreciate that. Yes, he's in my pool. And this is why the Steelers defense has not been impressive so far this season. No. Shockingly not impressive at all. And sure, could that turn at any week? Of course it could. But Drake May at home, a close spread here. I think this could be a game that could be like a sneaky over, just like, 2 weeks ago, Jets Steelers, nobody thought that was going to happen. Last week, Giants Dallas, nobody thought that was going to happen. This could be one where it's got a lower total, but it wouldn't stun me with the Patriots defense and the Steelers defense starting rough if this went over. And, Drake May, he can, I wouldn't force a stack with Drake May. I'll say that too. And I learned my lesson from that because I said I'm rotating different stack partners. There was really not a good stack partner to have, maybe Kayshon Boutte, but I'm not going to force a stack partner, but Drake May is in my quarterback pool because mainly I do think this could be a sneaky over and I haven't been impressed with the Steelers defense thus far.
Mike, I don't like this game much at all other than Drake May, and I'd be willing to play him or consider him at least, just playing him naked at 5,300, which I think is a very reasonable price. Any thoughts on this game?
Not a ton of thoughts. I'm probably not going to get anywhere in this one. I wouldn't hate a Jaylen Warren play only because I think that you're going to continue to see Rodgers have to throw short area passes. And, he's caught 6 balls the first 2 weeks, 6 balls for 100 receiving yards, by the way, in the first 2 weeks. He's difficult to tackle. It's why the Steelers liked him. It's why he's been, he's that guy that's tough to tackle. Adding more receiving work to him, like he's not going to profile as like a top guy because it's, you're talking 16 to 18 total touches, not 25 to 30, but I don't dislike it in a contrarian lineup.
All right. Any more thoughts on this game? I think we can probably move on. Go ahead, Meg.
I just wanted to kind of second that because I didn't mention it, that another contrarian play would be DK Metcalf if Christian Gonzalez isn't back. We saw what Tyreek Hill did to the Patriots defense, so I would throw that out there if you're wanting to do May and a Warren run back or May and a DK Metcalf run back. I don't mind that at all. But I think that was a great call out by Mike because Patriots give up a lot of receiving yards to running backs. And we even got, I like to refer to coach speak, but we got Rodgers speak that, let's get the ball out to Jaylen Warren even more because of what he can do in space. So I definitely have Warren in the pool for that reason.
Go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say on Rodgers, if anyone needs a translation on that, it's I'm 41 years old and I don't want to get hit. So that's partially what's going on there.
Decoding Aaron Rodgers. We got to make that a segment on this show. All right. Jets +7. Speaking of Aaron Rodgers, former team, Jets +7 at Buccaneers 43.5. This is a game, Mike, that I absolutely have no interest in. I like Bucky Irving, but I just don't want to play him this week at 7,100, considering the other running backs that are on the slate, and especially considering that Rachaad White looked really good last week, and this game could potentially get away from the Jets with Tyrod Taylor starting, and I just don't think it's the best environment for Bucky. Tyrod Taylor is starting, but he's not the flat 4K like Marcus Mariota, right? He is 4,800, so that takes him out of the running. Garrett Wilson is 6,200, but we just talked about guys that are 6,200, 6,300 that we like their upside, so I'm not really going for Garrett Wilson there. Mike, I'm fully out on this game. How about you?
Yeah, mostly fully out. Like, Garrett Wilson can firmly be in that A.J. Brown conversation for me, like one-offs, multiple touchdown upside, 100-plus yard upside. Like, it's clearly there. Breece Hall is projecting to get a little bit of ownership, and I number one, I'm not sure that I agree with that projection right now. Number two, I definitely have no interest in playing it. You simply don't run the football against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the road even. Now you remove the element of Justin Fields with his legs. Like, we think of Tyrod Taylor being a mobile quarterback and all of that. He's really not at this point in his career. Right. He does not represent the threat to actually move. When he moves within the pocket, it's to get rid of the football. It's not to pick up a first down with his legs generally. That hurts Hall. So it would be a receiver or nothing. But Wilson at 6,200, like, he's still clearly offering upside, in my opinion.
I do think Tyrod, and I'm remembering, in Tyrod's 36, by the way, but I'm remembering back to the days when, I don't know, we're talking like 4 or 5 years ago, where he really liked to lock on his first read. And if it wasn't there, he'd start kind of scrambling around in the pocket and trying to figure something out. So I do think to that end, Garrett Wilson is going to get force fed a ton of targets. So that could be a good foundational thing for him in terms of the floor. I just don't love the ceiling necessarily, but I agree. I think Garrett Wilson, you could consider. Meg, are we considering anybody else? I mean, Ibuka, Evans, their price points. I'm just, in this game environment, I'm not super interested.
Same, just the game environment doesn't interest me. The Bucs have some injuries on the offensive line, not just Wirfs, but I believe they lost another offensive lineman this past week. So yeah, it's just the game environment for me. And like you said, we have a lot of backup quarterbacks playing this week, but Tyrod is not min price. So yeah, this is a move on for me. All
right, let's then move on to our last 1 o'clock game. Texans +2.5 at the Jaguars. Meg, I can't say I'm particularly interested in this division matchup either. How about you? I mean, again, there's a lot of bigger names here. BTJ could make a nice bounce back. He's only 6,400. I mean, I kind of get that. And Tootin is kind of eating into ETN's work. I'm not sure how I'd want to handle that. And I'm not really interested in any Texans on the road. How about you?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I think talk about this game before the season started, you'd say, oh, this week 3 game circuit, that looks interesting. But now that we've seen, the offensive struggles of the Texans and still a poor offensive line for them, and then the Jaguars just getting Lawrence going with his weapons, it just doesn't feel like any place is comfortable. I think we will have a BTJ breakout week at some point here soon. I don't know if this is the week, though, with Derek Stingley Jr. and that Texans defense. So, yeah, this is a weird one for me because probably preseason I'd say, oh, this seems interesting. And now I really don't have much interest.
Mike, to be honest with you, the 44.5 point total seems a touch high to me. I would lean to the under here. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah. I kind of like Nico just a little. Had one good drive last week. 3 catches, got the touchdown. Didn't do much after that, but he was targeted 9 times. And I know there's a source of frustration coming off the frustrating loss. It's like, let's get back to what we do, and that's get the football in Nico Collins' hands in a divisional matchup. So I think Nico is like AJ Brown. I'd actually, even with the pricing, I'd put him above AJ in terms of viability for being a really strong contrarian play. But when you look at the pricing, he's truly in that no man's land considering the way the team is played right now. For $200 more, you can have Justin Jefferson. It's a situation where 700 more for CD Lamb. And I know 700 sounds like a lot, but the pricing's soft, right? So I'm going to play a little Nico and I'm going to get out. On the Jacksonville side, it's a wait and see. It's a new system. Parker Washington essentially leading the team in reception and targets last week. There were 7 different receivers that caught multiple passes. Not at the stat where 7 different receivers caught a ball. 7 different receivers caught multiple passes. I'm out until I see I'm out there for a while.
I agree with the Nico call. Meg, again, the implied total isn't super high for the Texans. It's 21.5, but they're not getting it with the running game. First of all, in case you didn't notice, the Nick Chubb touchdown, Tampa let him have that so they could get the ball back and potentially score a touchdown. So that wasn't oh, Nick Chubb is back. That was Nick Chubb just kind of getting a free roll or a free ride into the end zone. I don't know how they're scoring. Christian Kirk is back, but is he going to be fully integrated in the offense? And then it's Nico Collins or nothing. Do you have any interest? 7,300 is kind of a lot considering the other people we want to play. Any interest in Nico Collins before we move on?
I don't think so. Again, I get the point because he could break out at any time too. He had the touchdown, like Mike said last week, but didn't get there yardage wise at all. And so there's just other spots I like on this slate. So I don't see me getting there. But again, if you said you were going to do it and I get the contrarian spot for it, I wouldn't blame you. I just don't think I'll get there.
Keep in mind something that we like to do on the show is lay out the case for somebody like Mike just did. And I tried to supplement. But we're still saying we're not going to take them. But because we're laying out the case, that doesn't mean you shouldn't take them. It means you should listen to the analysis and decide whether you want to play a contrarian AJ Brown or a contrarian Nico Collins or Garrett Wilson, for example. I think they're going to be all relatively contrarian, mind you. But so again, we try to lay out the case for you. You guys and girls can make your decisions as that information comes to you. All right, we still got 4:00 games to get to. Our cheat sheets, top 3 at each position. We're going to start with Broncos Chargers right after this message from our partners.
You can't count on accurate expiration dates.
That is a rookie mistake.
Or the kindness of strangers. But thanks to CBS Sports, you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
We move along on FFT DFS to the Broncos and the Chargers. Chargers 2.5 point favorites at home, 45.5 point total. Meg, I don't have a ton of interest in this game either. There are other games in the 4:00 slate. Well, I certainly will have more interest. How about you, though? There's certainly a lot of big players in this one.
I have a little interest here. This is kind of like the Patriots Steelers for me, that it would not stun me if this game went over. So far, just through 2 games, Justin Herbert looks like an MVP candidate. He's using his legs more. They're putting the ball in his hands. High pass rate over expectation. All the things are there. I know we need to see what's Ladd McConkey's practice status is the rest of the week, but Keenan Allen has obviously just been amazing, especially for his price the first 2 weeks. So I do have a little interest in some Justin Herbert stacks whether you wanted to run it back with like a Sutton and hope he gets more involved, or Troy Franklin, who got very involved last week. I have a little interest in this one, especially I think the 4 p.m. slate, the game we'll talk about soon, is going to be one where, of course, I'll load up, but I might do one lineup where I kind of get away from that a little bit and hedge off some ownership with this one.
Mike, it's an interesting point. As good as we think the Denver Broncos defense is, there do seem to be some leaks a little bit here. And we look at Keenan Allen at 4,700. We look at what Justin Herbert has done. And then on the other side, I love the Troy Franklin call at a flat 4K. Good value play there. Mike, are you interested in any of those players or anybody else?
I love Keenan Allen in this game. Keenan Allen is back. He puts on a Chargers uniform, and it's like the electricity is running through the man. He's just different. He looks better. Right? He does. He's having fun. Have you seen him smile again? Like the guy is having fun. McConkey's beat up a little bit. Disley's beat up a little bit. He's caught touchdowns in multiple games. And you know why he's done that? Because Justin Herbert has a good offensive line, and Justin Herbert is extremely creative in buying time in the pocket. Keenan Allen has made his living in the NFL just getting open on busted plays if he's not open on that initial 8-yard slant that he runs, right? And that is what is going to help this Chargers team be so good. So I think this is a huge game for them. It's all hands on deck. It's 3 games in a row against divisional opponents. If they happen to win this game, they are, I don't want to say a lock to win the AFC West, but they are very close to it. And you look at the upcoming schedule, if they get through this one, there's a chance this team competes for the number 1 overall seed in the AFC between them and Buffalo. I think it's a huge game. And Keenan Allen at 4,700 is like, you could make him 6,500 and I'm still probably playing him. He's 17 targets in the first 2 games. Like he's going to get the football.
And I don't think, again, we have to kind of wait and see on injury status and whatnot, but Patrick Surtain can't cover everybody, right? And he's probably not going to be, my guess is he would be on Quentin Johnston or Ladd McConkey on the outside, I'm guessing. So I don't think Keenan Allen's going to draw that coverage. It's certainly something to keep an eye on. Meg, any other thoughts here?
No, that's a good point, as you kind of do want to go away from Surtain. And so that's another point to like Keenan Allen. So I'd say, Herbert, Keenan Allen stacks are live for me, or just Keenan Allen. If you are playing one of the other quarterbacks we mentioned, that's where I'm living here.
Yeah, and again, I don't think there's a lot of we're not really focusing in on the running backs here. I looked at J.K. Dobbins' rushing yards total because I was going to take the under. And then I saw that the number came out and it's like 48.5, 47.5. And I'm like, geez, that's even lower than I thought. So for now, I'm staying away. But I don't like Omari and Hampton either. I'm not interested in the running backs in this game. Let's go to the Saints +7 at the Seahawks. Maybe interested in the running backs here because Alvin Kamara, courtesy of Spencer Rattler's getting some check downs, but also he's their primary runner. And then Zach Charbonnet, we got to keep an eye on him because we're not 100% sure he's fully healthy. Again, Wednesday's practice reports are always a little finicky because a lot of times veterans and even younger players are resting there. But Meg, I'll start with you again here. Are we interested? The Seahawks are laying 7. They're at home. It's a 41.5 point total. Are we interested in anybody on these two sides?
You kind of called it out. Definitely the running backs for me are both in the pool with Alvin Kamara, Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker, I assume, will get chalkier if Zach Charbonnet is ruled out. I probably have interest in him either way. He still didn't have much usage week 2, but he just exploded as Kenneth Walker can do. So I definitely have interest in both Kamara and Walker. And then, of course, JSN with that target share. It's just insane. And then, of course, I'll stick with my cheap tight end theme. Juwan Johnson getting an insane amount of targets, got there last week, was a good cheap tight end play. And I think I'll go back there again this week. He's definitely one of my favorite cheap tight end plays this week too.
Yeah, Mike, Juwan Johnson, only 3,900. JSN, 6,500. Again, just an absolute target monster. Absolutely love him. And then there's the running backs. What do you like in this game, Mike?
I like. I could definitely see Walker if Charbonnet's out. Like I'm not ready to make him. Like Mason would be the preferred back still in that situation by a pretty significant margin. But what it would do is, I think it would create the path to getting a little different. Like I said, I think a lot of people, especially if you get Mariota at quarterback, or you still have Wentz, so you get 2 4K quarterbacks, right? If that scenario happens, you're going to see a lot of Mason, Bijan, CMC builds. But if Ken Walker becomes viable just like Mason, I could see some extreme tournament value and flipping that a bit and playing Mason and Walker and maybe a cheap receiver or another cheap running back, like someone like Jaylen Warren, who we talked about as a third running back flex. And then in those lineups, you could probably still get in Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and CeeDee Lamb in that lineup. And just kind of flip it and reverse it on a PPR site like DK. That's where my interest will be. So if I'm playing Walker, that's how I'll be doing it. I won't be trying to get contrarian in the sense of like everyone's going to play Mason, I'm just going to play Walker here. I'd be playing them together if I were playing him.
Okay. Meg, any closing thoughts on this game before we move to the big ticket? Cowboys minus 1.5 at the Bears with a 50.5 point total.
No, I think we covered this one.
All right. And by the way, there were people when we did the listener question stuff, which I'll get that tweet out a little earlier this coming week. But there were people that asked for, so the cash game plays as well when we're talking about players. That's something we'll keep an eye on. And certainly when we do the top 3 at each position in our cheat sheets, I'll call out some of the ones that are like obvious cash considerations, like a Jordan Mason, for example. Maybe Bijan and Christian McCaffrey would be in that conversation as well at the running back position. But a lot of times you can sort of glean what the cash games are just by how we're talking about these players. So that's something to consider, but we'll try to call it out a little bit more. Cowboys, Bears, 50.5 point total. I'm sure this total will fluctuate, but Mike, this is the one. This is the one that people are going to want to play. I think you can play it on both sides. How are you playing it?
Yeah, I think you can play it on both sides. Certainly more interest on the Dallas side than anything. CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson, love them both. Love Dak Prescott. Now, I do this a lot, and I'll definitely be doing it here. If we get Marcus Mariota, I'm playing CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, or CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson with Marcus Mariota. And just, I think if I play those two, I'm getting a ton of exposure to Dak anyway. But I'd much rather have the combination of Mariota and then jamming those 3 running backs that I really want. So I love Dak. I'll play Dak stacks. Cash game lineup would be Mariota if he's viable, if he's there. Still in tournaments. Don't be afraid to this is a situation where you have a quarterback so cheap. Don't be afraid to essentially have your double stack and then drop the quarterback for the value because you're still going to get a lot of exposure to Dak having a great game.
Meg, this is interesting because what I was hoping was that Caleb Williams is 5,600 and Dak's only 5,900. So I was hoping the separation would be like 800-900 so that because I would have thought Dak would be 6,500 on this slate and that Caleb might be, 5,700, for example, 5,600. And I would have been more inclined to play Caleb Williams in those situations. I still think I'm willing to play both Dak Prescott stacks and Caleb Williams stacks. And again, I'm not a Caleb Williams guy. It doesn't matter, right? We're talking about fantasy, talking about stacking him with some stacking partners that are really going to be good. Maybe the Cowboys jump out to a big lead and we get just a ton of completions, a ton of garbage time from Caleb Williams. How do you like both sides of this one? Or are you squarely focused on the Dak side?
I do like both sides. I like the Dak side more so. Dak, Lamb, Ferguson, exactly what Mike said, is my favorite stack. And I love when I'm in lockstep with both of you guys because it makes me feel good. I've already played around with, taking that Dak lineup and just replacing Mariota. So that felt good to hear Mike say that because of then what you can do, basically keeping the same shell, replacing Mariota, and then seeing what you can bump up with that salary savings. But no, I absolutely love the Dak, Lamb, Ferguson stack. Obviously, I do have some interest, though, in Caleb stacks. And, of course, Roma Dunze is my priority. Bring back 2 Dak stacks. And if I'm stacking with Caleb Williams, I keep saying Caleb Johnson. I drafted him way too much in best ball. Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze would be my Bears stack. And, of course, bringing it back with those Dallas pieces. Because like you said, maybe it's the game script and they're just he's going to have to play with his hair on fire and that's how he gets there more. Or, we do know that Caleb is using his legs a lot this year. So maybe he gets there, whether it's a touchdown or, 50 plus rushing yards or both. So I do have Caleb Williams is in my pool. Roma Dunze is the priority Bears target. And then we talked about the Dallas side. So yeah, I love this game. And those, I guess, 5 pieces are my favorite.
You said you drafted too much Caleb Johnson. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers think they drafted too much Caleb Johnson after that kickoff return. But again, that's just one small mistake. We'll see how his career plays out. Mike, a lot of people are going to come into this slate and they're going to be like, all right, I'm filling in my first three. It's going to be Dak. It's going to be CD. It's going to be a Roma Dunze run back. And then I'm just going to figure it out from there. Is there a way to play this game a little different? Again, I understand Ferguson's going to be put in there and things of that nature, but is there a way to be different? Maybe you're playing the 4:00 slate. Maybe you're playing the main slate. Maybe you're taking pieces of this. I guess the way to be different, you already explained it. You're not doing the Dak thing. You're doing the Mariota thing. Is that how you're going to get different? Are there other ways to consider?
That's how I'm going to attack it. But yeah, the next one I think stands out a ton is just play Javonte. Javonte Williams, the volume is there. He's been targeted 10 times in the passing game as well. I think that you can move the football in a number of ways against Chicago. So I think that just finding ways to bet on Dallas essentially scoring close to 30 points in this game. I think that Javonte is interesting at 6,100, but as far as
what about Mike doing Mariota with CD, but instead of doing that Ferguson side, you put in Javonte?
I don't hate it. I'd have to run number on some of the correlation, but I don't dislike it. I think it's possible. I think the game environment's high enough. Where I would shy away from that would be if it were like a 42-point total, 43. But the fact that we're up at 50, you can probably get away with that. And
then I interrupted you. Was there something on the Bears side you were considering as well?
Oh, gee, yeah. Just know that I don't know that I'm going to get to a ton of spots. The only other one would be like, instead of Ferguson would be Pickens. But I would only play Pickens in the Dak lineups, right? So I wouldn't play CD, Pickens, and not play Dak. That would not be the spot where I play Mariota. I would only play CD and Pickens together with Dak, because that's the scenario where it's probably 3+ touchdowns, probably close to 400 yards passing.
Yeah. Meg, the last note on this regarding Javonte Williams, the Bears are better against the rush than they are against the pass. And we know Jalen Johnson is out for quite some time. So I get the passing component of this, but would you consider playing Javonte Williams at 6,100?
He's in my pool. I'll say that he's in my pool, but I don't think I'm going to get to it much just because I like so many other running backs on the slate. But to Mike's point, to your point, that is the way to kind of play this game differently from the Javonte side, adding the Pickens side. So I definitely see that. I don't know how much I'll personally do it, but I see that. And I think, we like to talk about the short slates. The 4 p.m. slate, I think I might do a couple lineups where I just onslaught this game and then adding in more pieces than just that Dak, Lamb, Ferguson, Roma Dunze run back, just, try to onslaught it even more, or just pivoting to, kind of doing two versions. And then the second version of a 4 p.m. lineup would be kind of almost fading this game and saying, okay, this is just going to be a stinker and a disappointment. And I'm going to play Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen stacks with a Denver run back. And, maybe I just take one piece from this game, something like that. So that's how I think I'll handle the 4 p.m. slate, either go way overboard on this game or maybe just take a piece from this game and stack up Justin Herbert. So, but yeah, I do think the contrarian way to play this game on the main slate would be to, consider Javonte Williams or Pickens.
Absolutely agree. Javonte looks really spry, just now a little bit further removed. I could be just reading into that. Let's go to Cardinals, the last game of the 4 o'clock slate, and then we'll quickly run through our cheat sheet and top 3 at each position. Cardinals plus 2.5 at the 49ers. Interesting injury news here. Kyle Shanahan says Brock Purdy has a chance to play with the toe and shoulder issues. My guess is he doesn't play this week. Kyler Murray on the other side of it. Christian McCaffrey, 8,200. Am I seeing that price right? Yeah, 8,200. James Conner, 6,500. I'm not really interested, Mike, I'll start with you, in the Arizona pieces too much. I don't know that I'm super interested in the Niners pieces, although McCaffrey for sure I'm interested in. I think Ricky Pearsall, I think you could go right back to him regardless of who the quarterback is at 5,500. Mike, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's Christian McCaffrey first and foremost for me. The volume's just kind of unparalleled. It's like his floor performance is 100 total yards, 4 catches, so you get the 100-yard bonus, and no touchdown. You're never seeing a single-digit performance outside of an injury, right? So the floor is just there. I'll play CMC. On the other side, Trey McBride, definitely still playable. The volume's there. Hasn't ran hot, hasn't hit the end zone. Very possible he will. Not playing Kyler, not playing anyone else. CMC, pretty much must play for me. Again, assuming we get a 4K quarterback. CMC and move on mostly, but don't hate McBride.
Meg, your thoughts? CMC and move on, or do you like other players here?
CMC, and I'll throw in Ricky Pearsall. I don't know this week that I do him as much in the same lineup as I did last week, but CMC for all the reasons Mike laid out in the volume and everything, of course. And then I think Ricky Pearsall started off hot last week, and then it was just Juwan Jennings in the second half. Mm-hmm. Juwan Jennings, has an injury designation. We'll see what his status is, but I think a lot of people are going to shy away because Ricky Pearsall was kind of failed chalk last week. I'm seeing him low ownership right now, so I'm kind of tempted to go back there this week because the price is still reasonable, and if we're getting low ownership, I kind of like that.
Ricky Pearsall is always good for a couple of deep shots. He gets schemed just like any other receiver does, even more so than I think Juwan Jennings does, who can be more of a contested catch guy than Ricky Pearsall can be. So I like the Ricky Pearsall play at 5,500. Again, that 4:00 slate, I think there's so many things you can do with that Chicago game. Well, I should say the Dallas-Chicago game, but I think there's a lot of pieces you can take from some of these other games to get your lineups a little bit different. All right, I think it's time to move on to our cheat sheets and our top 3 at each position. Again, those who are new to the show, we do our favorite stack, chalk buys, chalk fades, contrarians, and values. And I have a confession to make. And a concession to make, I guess. Meg, my favorite stack was your favorite stack. So I just changed mine to the other quarterback and receiver in the same game. So you kick us off here with your favorite stack, chalk buy, fade, contrarian, and value.
Sure. So we'll start. That again feels good that we're in lockstep. So, So favorite stack, Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Jake Ferguson. We already talked about all the reasons why so far the Bears defense has been the most giving, and hopefully that continues this week. Chalk buy is Jordan Mason. We talked about that at length. He should get all the work in that for the Vikings. My chalk fade is Trey McBride. I'm seeing him coming in at pretty high ownership right now. And, you know me, I like cheap tight ends. So an expensive tight end at high ownership is going to be a fade for me. Contrarian, I just talked about it. Ricky Pearsall. I think he burned some people last week, so I'm going to go back to the well there. And then the value is Rome Odunze in that game with my favorite stack. They did not price him up enough. He is looking like the wide receiver one for Chicago.
All right. My cheat sheet's interesting. I kind of rushed the value play, and I feel like I want to change it, but for now we'll go with it. My stack is Caleb Williams to Rome Odunze. I like the Dak Prescott stack, but I like the other side of that as well. I honestly think Dallas is going to win this game, and I think they might win it like somewhat comfortably. The reason I say that, I could be wrong, is that I think we're going to see a lot from the passing game with Caleb Williams late in the game with perhaps some soft coverage against a soft defense anyway. So Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze, I like. Chalk buy, Bijan Robinson. Chalk fade, Puka Nacua. He's not super chalky, but Mike said he is in the double-digit ownership. He is double-digit ownership. Contrarian play, Ricky Pearsall. And my value play is Hunter Renfrow. And it was really just a price point thing and I think Atlanta's going to be winning thing. So I just think the ceiling is relatively low for Hunter Renfrow because he's not going to get a couple touchdowns again. But I think the floor is pretty high. So that's why I had him as a value play. I may want to reconsider that one. So just throwing that out there. There's probably some value plays that have a little bit better upside. Mike, top 3 at each position. Start us at the quarterback position.
All right, we're going to start Jake Browning, Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert. Now, if you see the graphic, I hope you go watch the show. I know you're not going to hear that information from seeing the graphic, but watch the show. Jake Browning likely will be replaced with Marcus Mariota. If Marcus Mariota is named the starting quarterback, I would still play all 3 of these guys and Mariota. But Browning, to me, is going to go overlooked a little bit because of the price point. He's just so close to these other guys. But we've seen a pretty meaningful sample size of the Cincinnati Bengals struggling on defense, allowing a ton of points, having to throw and play catch up. And we've seen Jake Browning come in and sling the ball around. This is not some backup that doesn't know the offense at all. He's been in this system and is very comfortable with it. I will also mention the team is 2-0. It's not like they're 0-2, Burrow's out, the season's over. Like, they've still got a shot here, right? So love me some Jake Browning. Dak Prescott, love the spot against Chicago. And then Justin Herbert, I think he's closer to one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL and the AFC. I could make the case for him being a little more expensive, and I think he goes overlooked because of all the 5K quarterbacks.
All right, top 3 running backs.
Jordan Mason, Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey. All 3 of these guys will garner some ownership. My strategy here is to play them all together, which can still lead to certain builds, but I like them for different reasons. Jordan Mason is the free square here. It's a situation where you drop a quarterback and you drop the running back competition. He's extremely explosive, talking about a game that we think could get a little silly at times. So love him at 5,400. Bijan, love this matchup where you and I see like the over in that game. Mm-hmm. And then Christian McCaffrey, it's just all volume. I'm going to try to play 3 running backs this week.
Mike, if people wanted to, let's assume Marcus Mariota is starting for Washington. If people wanted to play a cash game and they started with Marcus Mariota, Jordan Mason, Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey, would that be an okay start for them?
Yes, I think so. That's a good start in all formats for me this week.
Yep. Wide receivers, top 3.
Keenan Allen, CeeDee Lamb, and Rome Odunze. Now, you'll wonder why I give a couple value plays here. When I give the top 3 at everything, I want it to still essentially be a cheat sheet that you could go build lineups from, right? Like, do I want to play Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase also with CeeDee Lamb? Yes. Am I going to? Yes, at some point. But the core for me is still going to be Mason, Bijan, CMC. These 3 fit very nicely with that core, right? So CeeDee Lamb, obvious, we love Dallas. Keenan Allen is way too cheap at 4,700 with McConkey potentially beat up, a divisional matchup, and Surtain locking down one of, Quentin Johnson at some point or McConkey, just too cheap. And then Rome on the other side, he's kind of the wide receiver number 1, certainly got the upside down the field. Give me Keenan Allen, CeeDee Lamb, Rome Odunze.
All right, top 3 tight ends.
Jake Ferguson, again, can you tell I want to pick on Chicago's defense right now? Love the offense for Dallas. Tyler Warren, look, I just think he's a heck of a talent and going to be continuing to get more involved every week for the Colts. And then Trey McBride, I think he's going to go overlooked just a little bit this week. And I think he has a lot of upside still.
All right. And that's your top 3 at each position. A lot of those certainly cash game considerations for all of you playing cash formats as well as the tournaments this coming week. All right. I think that'll do it. Really good job as usual from Matt on the news and notes here that we had up on the screen this entire time, but also just the lineups and all the graphics with respect to the cheat sheets and the top 3 at each position. I can't wait for week 3. I think this is a really interesting slate. We got to stay on top of the news. Remember what Mike said about Marcus Mariota? Like, he gave you a top 3 quarterbacks and we gave you cheat sheets and all that, but there's still some news to come. So things will shift a little bit. And we told you how those were going to shift in terms of our perspective, in terms of who we're playing. So Meg, Mike, thank you very much. We went a little long, but we had 13 games to cover. We can't end the show without asking Meg. I'm just going to ask you first. Who wins tonight? Dolphins, Bills. It'd be crazy if you said the Dolphins. Do the Bills cover the 12.5? It's not an official play. I'm just asking your opinion here.
I think the Bills cover the 12.5. I'm not good with spreads and everything, but I do think the Bills cover, and poor Mike McDaniel gets fired. I think it's over. I really do.
Unfortunately for him, it is. Bad circumstance for him. Mike, do you have a lean on the side, and is there a showdown player or 2 that you're focused on tonight?
Sia, I'm going to tackle all of it. Both teams win tonight. The Bills win on the field. The Dolphins win with a reset. McDaniel's gone. Tyreek Hill's on the move by probably week 7 or 8, hopefully. Having said all that, though, I think they might backdoor cover this still. I think they could potentially be down 2 to 3 scores late and get it done. As far as showdown situation, it's impossible to get away from Achane, just the volume there. I do think we get a big night in terms of target share for Tyreek Hill. Mm-hmm. Whether it materializes or not, we'll see. But the Dolphins will have 10 points or more by halftime.
And I will say this too. That was a bet you put out on the early edge. The Dolphins over 9.5 points, first half team total. check that out. If you're listening to this show, you got to check out the Early Edge every Monday through Friday at 10 o'clock on the Sportsline YouTube channel. Last thing on Jalen Waddle, because you mentioned Tyreek Hill. His shoulder seems to be a bit more of an issue than maybe people anticipated. It sounds like he's going to give it a go in pregame warmups and see if he's going to be ready to play. So he might be pretty limited. So Tyreek Hill, maybe guys like Malik Washington, maybe looking at their props along with Achane might be certainly in play here in DFS and in the betting market. All right, that'll do it. Long show, good show. Big thank you to Matt. Obviously, thank you to Meg and Mike. Don't forget to join the Fantasy Football Today DFS contest. We've tweeted it out and it's in the podcast and YouTube description. Click on that link. It's $5. We'll shout you out if you finish in the top 3, and you can talk smack to us on social media when you beat us as well. That'll do it for us for week 3 main slate. We'll see you next week for week 4. Until then, let's get some green screens and have a great weekend, everybody.